Well, what has B-Man been saying all year about Alabama? What have I been saying? If you can remember, leave a comment below. I'll send you a shirt. What have I been saying about Alabama all year? And last night proved it. To give you a hint, the national championship game of 2020 between Alabama and the Ohio State University. Alabama, here comes a cuss word, folks, so get ready. If you have children in the room, tell them to leave. Alabama beat the living shit out of the Ohio State University last night. And Alabama just proved that they are the elite of the elite. Because you know I hate using that word elite. Alabama just proved that they are the best college football program ever to exist on this planet. Yes, and that's coming a lot from a Notre Dame fan who is not delusional. For the last 14 years, Alabama has been I wouldn't say 14 years, maybe the last 12 to 13 years. Not Notre Dame, I wish. I wish Notre Dame was the best football program in the world. In the last 12 to 13 years, Alabama has been the best college football program in terms of success that we have ever seen on this planet. They have won 7 national championships in 14 years. Think about that. Think about that. They had 3 Heisman Trophy candidates on this team this year, and one of them won it. And everybody says that Notre Dame can't compete with Alabama. Well, hello, who the hell can? I mean, they're going to make excuses for the Ohio State University, who had no business being there because not because of what they've done. Yes, they're a good team, but because of the way the Big Ten shit their pants when they were put under political pressure earlier in the year, and then they snapped one of their own rules so they can get in there and have representation possibly in the college football playoff format, which they did, and look what happened last night. I mean, it's not necessarily that they were an embarrassment. It's just that Alabama is good. And you know what? I know this is going to piss off a lot of people. I know this is going to anger a lot of people. But Notre Dame fared pretty well than most teams except for Ole Miss earlier in the year and Florida in the SEC championship game. I mean, Notre Dame could have made it down to a single-digit lead if they would have scored that late touchdown and went for 2 and made it a 31-22 game. That would have shut up the naysayers, but of course they would have had excuses. Well, Alabama took their foot off the brake. And even though I know I said that, I'm probably contradicting myself. But, I mean, they're unbelievable. I mean, what Nick Saban has done down there is amazing. And if you're a true Alabama fan, you're not a championship fan. I'm not talking about the Blackhawk fans. You know, the Blackhawk fans since 2009 have been a fan. I'm talking about Alabama fans that have been fans who are diehard fans. You guys are lucky. You have a treat down there with Nick Saban. And enjoy it because it's not going to last forever. Eventually, Nick Saban's going to be like, you know what? I'm getting kind of bored. I want something different. Or he'll just retire. But, yeah, I'm jealous. I am jealous of Alabama fans. I'm jealous of their success. I wish that was Notre Dame. I really do. I wish Notre Dame would win 7 national championships in 13 to 14 years. I mean, that would be great. That would just, could you imagine that? This channel wouldn't even exist because it would be positive all the time. Because, on my channel, I'm supposed to be negative. B-Man is mad. But enough of Alabama. And enough of the Ohio State University, because I hate the way they say the. Like, yeah, we know. There's only one Ohio State University, jackass. We get it. Okay? So stop going the Ohio State University. All you Ohio State fans out there. How are you feeling this morning, huh? How does it feel to get blown out by Alabama? Now you know how Notre Dame fans feel. So are we going to hear Ohio State can't compete with elite teams? Well, they did beat Clemson. Okay, whatever. I'm not going to get into that. This is about Notre Dame. This is a Notre Dame channel. But I had to give some respect for Alabama. I had to give some respect for Nick Saban. Even though, I have a little bit of respect for Nick Saban. Nick Saban has a freaking cool house. Have you ever seen his house? They did that documentary. They interviewed him from his house. The guy lives on a freaking lake and has like 3 boats and a jet ski. I mean, I want to hang out with Nick Saban. Smoke a cigar, drink some scotch. Not even talk about football, but just hang out with him. Because anybody who has a boat, except for Michigan fans, of course, anybody who has a boat, you're cool with me. and especially if he smokes cigars, because I love smoking cigars. By the way, if you want to pick out a good cigar, pick out the brand Punch. Very good cigars. Very, very good. I smoke them all the time. Any one of their brands is very good. They have hundreds of them. They're good. Not literally hundreds, but you get what I'm saying. They have all types of Punch cigars. Smoke them. They're great cigars. I smoke at least once a week. I shouldn't be, because smoking's bad for you. You children out there, never smoke. Don't be like Uncle B-Man. Smoking is bad. Now, as I drink some water here, excuse me, live on air. I know you're not supposed to do that, but you know what? I'm not being paid for it, so it's okay. So I can do whatever I want. And it's my YouTube channel, right? 2020 for Notre Dame. What would my grade be as we get right into dinner here? You know, we cut through the appetizer. We get right into dinner. I would give Notre Dame a B+. Up until the I wish it was a national championship game. Up until the ACC championship game, Notre Dame was at an A- for me. They weren't quite perfect yet. I had to see how they were going to perform in the ACC championship game, and we all knew what happened there. And of course, the first semifinal game in Dallas, which was supposed to be the Rose Bowl, technically the Rose Bowl, played in Dallas, not out on the left coast in California, in Pasadena. We saw what they did and what Alabama. I shouldn't necessarily say what they did, what Alabama did, because you got to give Alabama respect. What Alabama did to Notre Dame, and what they've done to everyone else, except for Florida and Ole Miss, who gave them scares this year. That had to lead me down to a B-. Sorry. B- is good. Now, as a coach, I have to give Brian Kelly an A. Not an A+, not an A-, just an A. The way he was able to keep the composure with his team, the way that he was able to keep them together, even though the way he was able to keep them together after the COVID breakout before Wake Forest, there's only a couple teams in the college football in the country who were able not to have more than one breakout, or I should say more than two breakouts, and that was Syracuse. They did a great job. They only had one breakout, and that was back in July, and that was it. I mean, what Brian Kelly did as a coach this year, and I know I've criticized him a lot on here, and I've been critical of him. You know what? It was a good year for him, and it was a good year for the program. I know I was a little negative, a little pissed off, and said, don't settle for defeat, don't settle for mediocreness, stuff like that. But after I calmed down, after I got my emotions out, and after I got done pouting and running around the house, acting like a little brat, I was able to come to the point that this was actually a good year for Notre Dame. 10-2. 2020, like I said, was a weird year. It was weird for everyone. It was weird in sports. We had the World Series played in Dallas on a neutral site. We had the NBA playoffs played on a small court down in Orlando. So the national championship game last night capped it up, and unfortunately, Notre Dame wasn't there, but Brian Kelly has some good things coming, and I will get into that. And, in college football, if you have a good year, you lose coaches. It's just the way it is. Unless, if you're Nick Saban, it really doesn't matter because you're so great and you recruit so well. But with schools that need good coaching, that need good defensive coordinators to build in and flush in, we saw Clark Lee of Notre Dame leave, the defensive coordinator who was very successful. His players loved him. He was there for 3 years. He's a player's coach. He left and went to the head coaching job at Vanderbilt. And then Brian Kelly had announced that Marcus Freeman, very successful, five-star caliber type of defensive recruiter at the University of not Missouri, I almost said Missouri, Cincinnati, is going to be Notre Dame's new defensive coordinator. Now, I want to hold the phone on that a little bit, because if Notre Dame does have a couple more successful seasons, he's going to be gone. The defensive coordinator, Marcus Freeman. He'll be somewhere else, because that's just the way it is. That's the way they name the game is. You have a great year. Your defense is great. You have one of the best defenses in the country. People are going to point at your coach, at your defensive coordinator, and say, I want him to coach. That's what we want. And they're going to come for him, offer more money. And of course, people want to do that because they want to build on their career. It's okay. It's coaching. That's what it is. So, let me say this. Brian Kelly has about 4 more years left on his contract. They extended it to 2024. Earlier in the spring, they announced it. They made a decision a year ago back in December, but they kept it under the rug. They kept it a secret, and it broke out early spring that they extended him for another 4 more years up until 2024, 5 more years in 2019, so about 3 more years now. What will Brian Kelly's legacy be in 2024? If he decides not to extend the season, if he even makes it that far, if he isn't fired for some drastic reason, or he gets picked up by another school that he gets interested from, or he leaves for the NFL. But let's say that he stays. What will Brian Kelly's legacy be? Now, what has his legacy been so far? Good, but not good enough. He's gotten to the top, but didn't finish. He's gotten almost to the top of the hill, but didn't get quite there with getting blown out by Alabama, of course, and then getting blown out by Clemson in 2018 in Dallas in the Cotton Bowl. So far, that's his legacy. But with Marcus Freeman coming in, with their better recruiting coming in, and then if this Marcus Freeman guy can work his magic and they can get some 5-star recruit speed on their defense, watch out. There's a potential there. Not very high. Let's say, I'm going to say 39.9% chance that Notre Dame could win a national championship in the next 3 to 4 years. Now, you're probably thinking, well, that's not very high, B-man. Well, why would you say that? Because, folks, it's very hard to get that kind of talent at Notre Dame. But if this Marcus Freeman guy and Brian Kelly can convince some 5-star recruits to get into Notre Dame and somehow the academic thing, I don't know how they'll do that. They bent the rules for Lou Holtz in the 80s. I can't believe he said that. Yeah, I did say that. They did. They bent the rules for Lou Holtz in the 80s. Let's say that they bent some rules a little bit, and they're able to get these 5-star recruits to come into Notre Dame, and they drop their grade point average lower. And let's say that Notre Dame has a complete 5-star caliber team on defense, and they have a good quarterback, great offensive line like this past year, and Notre Dame wins the national championship. Now, if I'm Brian Kelly and I do that in 2024 in his last year, and he wins the national championship, and it took him all this to do it, being at Notre Dame for 16 years, the first thing I would do is flick people off if I was Brian Kelly. I'd flick off all the naysayers at ESPN, even me for being critical of him on this channel for my first year of Honest About the Irish. That's what I would do if I was Brian Kelly, and I would leave. I would leave the sunset. I would say I was able to win a national championship at Notre Dame when no one else said I could do it. But there is a 39.9% potential that Brian Kelly can do that. Now, if he doesn't do that, and he does leave in 2024, his legacy will be close but no cigar. And then that's just where Notre Dame is right now. We've got to accept it, guys. Don't accept defeat. You never accept defeat. Okay, don't be defeatist. But you got to accept that we know we're not... I hate using that word we, because I am not affiliated with Notre Dame. We as fans, I'll say us fans, need to be realistic. We know we're not... we as in fans know we're not with the calibers of Alabama. Us fans know we're not at the calibers of the Trevor Lawrence likes. Trevor Lawrence, complete, full, healthy team. We saw that in the ACC championship game. We saw that 2018. We're not quite there yet. We're as fans, guys. Okay, so we just need to see what happens in the next 3 years, then determine what Brian Kelly's legacy will be. Right now, it's good, but not good enough. I mean, they've gone 43-8 in the last 4 years, not including this year, but they've gone 43-8 in the last 4 years. Before 2020, and I'm sure the Google factors are checking that record right now, the 43-8. But he's had some success, so let's calm that down a little bit. But again, you want more. You want national championship. So we'll see what happens in the next 3 years with that, with Brian Kelly. But folks, I've got some positive vibes coming. I have some positive feelings coming. I think something big's coming for Notre Dame. I saw the recruiting class, and it's impressive. Okay, especially with this Marcus Freeman guy coming in, who's pretty talented, and he's another player's coach. It's always important to have a player's coach. If he can get some 5-star recruits in key position defensive players in the pass rushers and linebackers and safeties, watch out for Notre Dame. Watch out. So we'll see what happens with that. I like I said, I'm not going to rename my channel B-Man as Happy, because that would be stupid, because this is the most positive I've been on here all year. But B-Man is mad is where it's going to stay, because you all know that I might go crazy if this doesn't work out. Marcus Freeman doesn't work out. It's a flop. Notre Dame sucks. They go back to mediocrity. And Brian Kelly's legacy was good but not good enough. I'll be on here screaming, pouting, acting like a 10-year-old spoiled kid at Walmart who doesn't get the toy gun that he's always wanted, and I'll be pouting. But until then, we'll see what happens. Now, as I end this show, there is a problem that I have. As I drink some more water, excuse me. There is a problem that I have with people questioning me, my emotions, and my compassion with sports. Now, what I'm talking about is that I've told you 100 times, I love Notre Dame football. I love college sports, especially college football. It's an addiction for me. I could sit in this room right here with my TV to the left of me or right and watch 12 straight hours of college football because that's what I love to do. If it was my job, I'd be the happiest person in the world. If I was a sports reporter where I'd write down notes for 12 hours, it would be a dream come true. That would be the ultimate goal for my life. I would be the happiest person in the world. Now, Notre Dame football, and I've said this 100 times, they either make or break my weekend. The last 2 games have broken my weekends. Notre Dame got blown out in their both last games of the year. Alabama and Clemson. Most recently, Alabama, of course. And they just got dominated. And I was in a bad mood. You could tell all the people I was texting, telling me, calm down. B-Man, calm down. It's just a game. I have a problem with that. It's just not a game. For you artists out there, for you skateboarders out there, even those people who play video games, if people tell you that your passion is not good, you overreact with your passion, it's just a game, or you're acting too serious, it affects your life too much, don't listen to those people. Do not block that out. Block that out, because don't let anyone ever question about something you love. And yes, I might act crazy after the Notre Dame game. No, I'm not going to be destructive. I'm not going to go throw a brick at my car or go pick up my TV and throw it across the room. Now, sometimes I feel like I want to, but you get what I'm trying to say. Don't let anyone ever question you and tell you it's just a game, or it's just a picture, or your passion's not good enough, or they question it. Okay, that is horse crap, and you're better than that, and don't listen to those people, because I deal with it all the time. Folks, let me tell you this. After that Alabama game, I was pretty depressed. I said here, and I knew it was going to happen. Like I said, the old analogy, your wife's cheating on you. Your husband's cheating on you. But when you catch him in the act, it just hurts. And that's how I felt. The Notre Dame, they broke my heart. That's just the way it is. And for people to question that about my love for something, then I think those people are passionately lazy. They don't have a passion like I do for something I love, and that is college sports. I hoped at 41 years old, I should have probably thought about this 20 years ago. I hope to be one day in the near future talking about college football and being paid for it. That would be the second greatest day of my life. It would just be a dream come true to do something that you love and get paid for it. It doesn't happen to a lot of people, and that's what I'm working for. So that is my F5 of the week, the verbal F5 of the week, people who question your passion. And unless it's some kind of creepy passion or some weird passion where you take fish hooks and you I don't know, use your imagination, then I can't really help you out there. But you get what I'm saying. Art, sports, drama, acting, liberal arts, anything like that, don't listen to it. It's negative feedback, and they just want to bring you down. So that is pretty much it today, folks. That is the verbal F5. Kind of weak, but I always felt that it's very important to always practice on your passion. Don't ever give up. Drive yourself for it, because eventually it could get you somewhere very successful one day. And like I said, I want to be able to have my own show somewhere on a TV station one day talking about college football sports. That would be an ultimate dream come true. But it's not easy. Life isn't going to hand it to you. You got to work for it. You always got to work for it. That's why you have a passion, because you work hard for it. Folks, that is pretty much it. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe for those of you who are new. And also leave a comment, most importantly. Until then, folks, I will have something new next week, once a week, twice a week, depending on if there's any breaking news out of Notre Dame or a completely different You've Been F5'd by B-Man is Mad. Until then, everyone, stay safe, take care, and of course, go Irish!